Now, there are those who tout their experience working the system in Washington. I understand that, but the problem is the system in Washington isn't working for us. And it hasn't been working for us for a very long time. Think about it. We've been talking about the healthcare crisis in this country for decades. Yet through Democratic and Republican administrations, we failed to act. And everybody here knows why, because the drug and the insurance industry has spent over $1 billion on lobbying in the past 10 years alone to block reform. We've been talking about clean energy and reducing our dependence on foreign oil for decades. And yet, through administration after administration, we don't seem to be able to do anything about it. Of course, nobody's done more to discredit Congress's and White House's efforts on energy than Dick Cheney. When he was assigned, he met with environmental groups once, he met with renewable energy groups once, and then he met with oil and gas companies 40 times. But that attitude is not unique to this White House. Now, too many people in Washington see politics as a game. And that's why I believe this election cannot just be about who plays the game better. It has to be about who's putting an end to the game plan. The times are too serious. The stakes are too high. And part of the reason I'm running for president is because I've never seen politics as a game. I've never seen politics just as a matter of tactics and who's up and who's down. From the day I became a community organizer on the south side of Chicago over 2 decades ago, I've always seen politics as a mission, as the way we hold up this country to its highest ideas. If you don't spend your whole life in Washington, it becomes easier to remember what this means, this politics of mission. You know, the other day I came out to the Bay Area because the Service Employees International Union had organized an event where I'd walk in the shoes of one of their members for a day. And so I woke up at 5 a.m. and I met with this 61-year-old woman named Pauline Beck, who was a home care worker. Every day of her life, she wakes up and she takes care of 2 foster children who don't have a family of their own. Then she goes to work, and she takes care of an 87-year-old amputee named John Thornton. She calls him Mr. John. And so I went with her to Mr. John's house to work, and we scrubbed floors, and we did the laundry, and we cleaned the rooms, and we prepared breakfast, and we helped them get dressed. And it was one of the best days that I've ever had on this campaign, because it reminded me of what we're doing here. Listening to this humble woman talk about the hardships of her life without a trace of self-pity. Glad she could just be of some service to somebody. Just wanting a little more pay to take care of those kids. A little more security for a retirement. Maybe a day off once in a while to rest her tired back and her weary feet. I was reminded that for all the noise and the pettiness coming out of Washington, what holds this country together is this attitude of selflessness, this fundamental belief that we've got a stake in each other, that I am my brother's keeper, that I am my sister's keeper, and that idea has to express itself not just in our churches, not just in our synagogues or mosques or temples, not just in our own families. It's got to express itself through our government. That's part of what America is all about. Recapturing that spirit that we are all in it together. That you're not on your own, that somebody's going to be there if you trip, if you fall. Now, I'd say this, when the folks in Washington hear me speak about this is usually when they start rolling their eyes a little bit. Oh, there he goes, he's talking about hope again. He's so naive. He's a hope peddler. He's a hope monger. Maureen Dowd just this week, she said, oh, he's talking about hope. He should be scratching Hillary. Well, I stand guilty as charged. I'm hopeful about America. And I know understand that some pundits consider this a symptom of my lack of experience. And I used to wonder what they meant by this, because this whole experience argument, because I've been fighting for people as a public servant for over 2 decades, as a community organizer, as a civil rights lawyer, as a constitutional law professor, as a state senator, as a U.S. senator. But then I came to realize that to some folks in Washington, only the years you spend in Washington count as experience. And I think they're wrong about that. I don't know if you remember, there were a couple of guys named Cheney and Rumsfeld who had 2 of the longest resumes in Washington, and they led us into the worst foreign policy fiasco of a generation. Time service does not guarantee good judgment. A resume says nothing about your character.